Hey people, what's good? Mount Lethe Hellfire. Wanted to do a quick bench top review after 100-ish rounds on a Knight's SR25 6.5 Creedmoor or an M110A3. This is technically, from what I understand at least, a USSOCOM contract overrun M110A3 upper. Though I don't think there's really any difference between the commercial ones other than, the Magpul FDE taupe-ish sort of coating on it, but I could be wrong. I'll flash up the stats from where I got it from Pre-Sample Depot, or if I could find the AUSA brochure on it. But essentially, it's an SR25, right, or M110, whatever you want to call it, or Mark 11 even. It has a 22-inch dimpled, heavier profile, 6.5 Creedmoor barrel. Again, I don't know the steel and the twist rate. Doesn't matter. From front to back, at least how it comes from the factory, with the 2-port PRT, or not the PRT, the QDC, the quick detach collar capable muzzle brake for the CAC alphabet soup cans. I have one waiting on a Form 4 that hopefully ATF will approve here pretty soon, and then I could do a proper review in this rifle in its full form, because sitting next to it kind of sucks when you're zeroing it or having somebody else shoot it. Just stand behind them. It has the URX6 or Universal Rail extension. The URX has been around for a minute, coming in different flavors. They had the URX4, and then they skipped right past 5 and then went to URX6. The difference between the 4 and the 6, none of the QD cups, I never used the QD cups. And, it's a nice rail. It fits good in the hand. And, there's not really much else to say for it. This thing mostly lives on the bipod or lives on a tripod. I hardly ever pick it up. It is lighter though, fully loaded minus like the scope. Like if you just had it configured, with nothing on it other than the flip up irons it came with, I think it's just around 8.1 pounds. Whereas a factory E2 PR or APR, which is the 20-inch 308, kind of the commercial version of the M110A2, or maybe the M110A2 is the mill version of the E2 PR. I'm not too clear about when they started getting issue with the different contract modifications to the M110. There's a ton of them between the K guns and the A2 and the A3. But that one is like 10.4 pounds. So this is significantly lighter, even in this configuration, versus my E2 PR, which I'll do another video on. It comes with the E2 bolt, or the Mod 2 gas system. They call it the carbon cutter, not the sand cutter on the big boy bolts, but hard chrome, just like everything you would expect. It's covered in, gook and grease right now. It didn't come like that from the factory. It comes with that Ford M-Lock pick rail attachment. It comes with the heavier buffer if you were using like an LMT or some other SR25 compatible lower, which I didn't use because I already had an SR25, just a factory lower that I got from Soul at Rooftop Defense from one of his drops at the beginning of the year. And then the AMB charging handle, and then they, do the normal spray, spray paint Cerakoting, which is closer to a Magpul FDE2, the NIR, the near infrared coating, and not so much like that taupe color from some of the older CACs. But they don't just spray them fully assembled. It looks like they sprayed all these pieces independently, except for maybe the upper receiver. But the dust cover was not sprayed, and I don't care. Eventually, maybe I'll send the lower in to, I don't know, NS Armory or D. Wilson or somebody to spray it to match, but I don't mind it. I know it's not an M110A3, right? It doesn't have an M110 lower, and, I spend money on dumb things, but I'm not going to spend it on a marked lower for a bunch of money just to have the roll mark. I highly doubt Knights will ever sell this one independently. Maybe somebody will come out with a better 25, or not a 25%, or an SR25 patterned 80%, compatible, like how Cartel's been coming out and Katerian's been coming out with compatible parts. And then that's about it. I mean, it's boring. It's an SR25, right? I put a B5 light, I believe that's the medium, but it might be the small precision stock, because I saw a picture of somebody with an M110A3. I like it better than the PRS light, but honestly, I might just swap it to STR, which comes on most of the SR25s. You know, between my different like comm setups and helmet setups and even hearing protection setups, like having to mess around with the comb all the time, the length of pull, depending on what I'm wearing, and, you know, if I'm shooting a match or just kind of plinking on the flat range, it's a little annoying. I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking it. And then I put the B5 Systems Type 22. I like the more neutral grip. Not that you need to squeeze that thing when you're shooting this off of a tripod. But the back of the B5 does have a slot to put a monopod on, but I just use different bags. I forget who makes them, but I saw them on a Paramount Tactical. That dude's based out of Harper's Ferry, I believe, or at least that's where he does a lot of his class. And Cross Tack. And I grabbed a couple Cross Tack bags from him. They have like a tackier one that's kind of made of like a Hypalon, and then they have a Cordura ones for MC Arid just for the drip. On top, I have a Reptilia AUS 154 0 MOA 34 millimeter. That's a mouthful. With their 34 millimeter contract diving board, which is supposed to fit the Raptor S, but it'll obviously fit Mars, MRFXEs, and other lambs. That one has an Engol, either my A1 or my A7. It doesn't matter. It's not like I plan to throw this thing in the water. And then it has a Night Force attacker or attacker, whatever you want to call it, 7-35 f1. So it's a first focal plane with a Tremor 3. I love the Tremor 3 now that I know how to use it. Obviously, I'm not shooting a ton of moving targets. The only thing we could do is predation hunt or hunt predators like coyotes with center fire here in Pennsylvania. They don't let us hunt regular big game with semi-autos yet. But when I go out to land in Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, or just anywhere else to like shoot a match, then, you know, it's kind of nice if there are moving targets on the stage or just having the capability. I'm not by any means a sniper, you know, or like a professional at the Tremor 3. I wouldn't even feel comfortable talking about it, but there is content here on YouTube about it. Overall, as a package, I mean, you hear it all the time. My gun's a quarter MOA gun all day, every day, hoss. I zeroed this thing in with just some cheap freaking Aguila 140 full metal jacket at like 120, I think the public range is at. It's not exactly 100, it's a little bit over 100. And, you know, it's only 100 yards, so I wasn't, you know, expecting there to be a ton of spread, but I didn't have a ton of faith in the Aguila. You know, I was expecting it just to be kind of like 147 grains in a freaking 308, but no, I mean, this thing was shooting like 5/8 half MOA groups, pretty much right out of the box. I just did like an easy bore sight. I, you know, got it on paper, got it grouped, shot probably 40 rounds of that just to break, you know, get the barrel, you know, leaded up or coppered up, whatever you want to call it. I didn't, you know, do what Jack Lueba recommends. There's a thread of him on ORFCOM about breaking in, like shoot one round and then wipe it down. I was going to do that. But yeah, I mean, the scope is more than enough. Like you could put a 416 and a 420 on this. I used to have a 420 on my APR, my E2PR, whatever, on the regular SR25. And it's more than fine. The scope is kind of overkill. The long rail is great. You could put pretty much any clip on in front of it. I have a PVS 24LR, so it doesn't have the biggest footprint. I mean, I have a 735, same configuration on my E2PR. It has a URX4, so I think it's missing like 2.5 or 3.5 inches of rail, and I could still fit the PVS 24LR in front of the 735 on that one. You know, very accurate, even more accurate with a Federal gold medal match after, you know, I kind of got the barrel broken in and heated up a little bit, you know, got some good strings of fire through it, you know, not just dumping rounds, you know, doing 6-round groups because we can only have 6-round mags on the public ranges, you know, and I was like, hey, if this could do freaking, you know, 3/4 half MOA with Aguila and I'm kind of rushing the shots and not in, you know, the prime shooting position, right, because they changed out the benches and the range that I go to, and, you know, they're kind of funky. They're wheelchair accessible, which is really cool. But that means that the swivel seat is, you know, really swivelly. So there's only so much you could do. Maybe that's me coping. And, you know, I suck. I can't shoot a 1/4 MOA group. I can only shoot a half MOA, you know, on a static flat range, got a paper target that, you know, minute of elk or minute of coyote, doesn't matter. It's dead. But with Federal gold medal match, 140 grains, That's where it started to really, really tighten up if I was taking my time. I mean, I was putting ragged holes in it, you know, an eighth MOA, whatever. You know, when folks talk about it, sometimes I roll my eyes because it's like, you know, you never know. I try not to, you know, hype myself up, right? Again, not a sniper, not anybody special, just a dude who likes Knight's products. Now, and then what else did I put on it? That's a mag pull on the bottom portion there. Where's my little pointing stick? On the bottom portion over there, I put a mag pull arc rail adapter. I like these because they take a little set screw, so you could index it forward. I use a fat boy. Would hate the ball head mounts because, you know, the gun tends to roll over when you're trying to make a quick adjustment. Skill issue, whatever. The B&T Atlas LW417, whatever. I kind of like these, but you know, they can't too much and they swivel too much. Yeah, you can tighten them down, and there's a thread on Sniper's Hide about shimming these things up. And I would probably just go Accutac again or do a full length Arca, but you know, it works for now. I haven't taken this one to a comp, right, or anything like that. This has only a little bit over 100 rounds on it. It's hardly broken in. I still gotta, you know, deep clean it, re-verify 0 with the can when the can gets approved here soon, and then work up a load for this thing. Probably get some better time behind it, you know, popping pigs or popping coyotes if I have the time. Where was I going with that? Right. Is this worth it? Well, I got it on the PSD pre-order, I think 46 or 4,700. Maybe I'm not allowed to talk about that. I don't know, whatever. But under 5Gs from PSD, out the door, price obviously a little bit higher than that with sales tax and shipping. It took about a month for me to get it. I was probably one of the last ones to receive it. I don't know if that's because not all the pre-orders got fulfilled because he did have stock left. It was just more, you know, Knights it's a big company. They're a military contractor first, for good reason. That's where all their money and all their R&D effort comes from. That's why these guns are so good, or good comparatively. So it is what it is. It's not like I'm in a rush. I have other Knights guns. So I'm beating around the bush. Is it worth the money? I mean, that's hard for me to say, right? So as configured, I have over 10 grand into this gun with the scope and the lower and all that stuff. You know, is it worth it? Yeah. I mean, this thing is accurate and precise to, you know, a 6.5. I guess you could take it out to 1600. It's not an ELR cartridge, right? I really wouldn't shoot big game with this. Maybe a tiny Pennsylvania whitetail, but again, we're not allowed to shoot semi-autos. If it's just the drip you want, then yeah, you know, I guess likes on Instagram are eternal, so whatever. And you know, Reddit posts and all that. If you wanted the most accurate, dead to rights 6.5 you could get out of the box, you know. Again, the whole quarter MOA all day thing, it doesn't matter if you're just punching paper. I think it does matter if you're shooting like a PRS match, right, at like unknown distances, and you want to make sure that your rifle is as accurate as possible, you know, to account for your mess up rate. I mean, the gun's a gun. It's either going to shoot or it doesn't, and this gun's a shooter. But for the total cost of ownership, no, I honestly would just rather send it on doing either like a custom build or a really nice bolt gun. I mean, with the money invested, you save an extra 4 or 5 Gs or sell an extra rifle or two, or maybe some large rifle primers. Those things are freaking unobtainium. And then, you know, all of a sudden now you're at a Mark 22, or you could get an MRAD. It's like, if you're not just sitting on a boatload of cash and with nothing to do about it, no. But if you are, and you just wanted something that absolutely works, and you wanted to bet, it's a fantastic gun. I'm you know, a Knights fanboy, I guess, you know. I was in the military, was around these guns a lot. I love the aesthetic of it, though frankly, I like the aesthetic of the K1 a lot better. That's my dream rifle. You know, that aesthetic is awesome. These things are workhorses, you know, similar ergos. It has the ambi features if you like the ambi features, or if you're wrong-handed. And yeah, that's about it. Gun didn't explode, and the gun did what the gun does. That's, you know, that a gun of this price should do it, right? And don't get me wrong, there are guns out there, you know, weapon platforms, whatever you want to call it, rifles, that are like $3 grand, $4 grand, $5 grand, and don't shoot. right? And there are, rifles like these. Like I've heard of people with the, with the K7 uppers, the 14.565s that, you know, they can't get tighter than a freaking 1.5 MLA group at 100, and they have every F-class shooter come out and try it out. So, you can't have issues with these, but you can have issues with everything, so you just kind of take it with a grain of salt, and yeah, I'm gonna have to edit this in post for sure. But any, questions, comments, concerns, bitches, gripes, moans, complaints, just throw them in the comments. I'll try to answer it as best as I can. I'll probably do another update when I get the can, and then maybe another one at, 5,000 rounds whenever I get there in like a year or two.